The country icon from Down Under has battled addiction, found love, and became a TV star over the years. This is Keith Urban's stunning transformation. Keith Urban is widely recognized for his prowess on the guitar, but the first instrument he learned how to play was actually a ukulele, which was given to him when he was 4. Growing up in Brisbane, Australia, Urban was surrounded by music thanks to his father, a country music aficionado who also played the drums. His life changed forever at the age of 5, when his parents took him to see music legend Johnny Cash in concert. At that young age, Urban could envision himself on stage, performing for a crowd. Within a few years, the youngster shifted from ukulele to guitar, mastering the instrument well enough that he began performing on stage when he was just 7. Even as a kid, he loved the stage, performing at talent shows. He was still in his early teens, just 14, when he started a band and began playing gigs. His all-consuming interest in music led him to quit school at 15 so he could focus on music full-time, without the distractions of homework and attention. Hitting the bar circuit in Brisbane, Urban performed whatever people wanted to hear, regardless of genre, an experience that laid the groundwork for his particular blend of country and rock.
I played all the clubs in Brizzy growing up, playing top 40 covers, like so many of us do coming up through the ranks.
Keith Urban was already a seasoned performer when at age 9 he appeared on the popular Australian TV talent show Pot of Gold. After watching the youngster's performance of a country song, one of the show's judges made it clear that he was not a fan of Urban's choice of music. Urban recalled in a 2015 Q&A at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, "This one guy called Bernard King came at me. Part of what he said, and I'm quoting him, 'I definitely encourage you to escape the mediocrity of country western music and get into some real music.' And he said, 'Kindly learn to sing in tune, because you are intrinsically a good musician.'" Later, he asked his mother to explain the meaning of intrinsically, and she said it meant that he was a natural. He added, "I said, well, cool. I just discarded the rest of that junk and hung on to that bit." That may have been discouraging, but it did not deter him from trying again. Years later, the 16-year-old appeared on another talent show, New Faces, where he sang the Air Supply hit, All Out of Love. Once again, he didn't win. This time, the judges pointed out his tendency to inhale in the middle of vocal phrases, suggesting he work with a vocal coach to learn proper breathing techniques.
So you can do it, you just need to sort of seriously work on it now that you've got the ability to play the guitar and sing, get into it properly.
In 1991, Keith Urban released his debut album, which only was available in Australia, but eventually received an international release nearly 15 years later. Issued by EMI Australia, the album, titled simply Keith Urban, was received warmly by Australian country music fans. The album also garnered enough attention that Urban landed a coveted spot opening for veteran Aussie country music star Slim Dusty, something of a cultural icon down under. Interestingly, Urban first met Dusty more than a decade earlier, when he was a young fan who waited in line to meet him, asking the singer to autograph sheet music to his biggest hit, Lights on the Hill. Urban reminisced about Dusty, who died in 2003, in an interview posted on Facebook by the Slim Dusty Center. As Urban recalled, the pair was nearing the end of the tour when Urban joyfully pointed out that there were just 3 more dates to go before it ended. Dusty responded to this with melancholy, saddened that he only had 3 more opportunities to connect with his fans on stage. The much younger Urban instantly realized how jaded he had already become and took away a valuable lesson. "I remember that night so vividly, thinking, that's the attitude to have. This whole thing was about playing, about giving. That moment really changed the way I looked at touring." Keith Urban recognized he could only go so far as a country artist in Australia, and in 1992, he made the move to Nashville, Tennessee. After living in the epicenter of country music for a few years, he eventually became the lead singer of a country rock band called The Ranch. He figured his big break had arrived when The Ranch signed with Capitol Records, releasing their first and only album in 1997. But Urban recalled to Rolling Stone, "The Ranch was a mess, period. Because we were in a van going all over the country playing to 3 people. It was soul-sucking to the ultimate degree." The album's dismal sales were discouraging, and The Ranch ultimately broke up. While the band may not have made much of a dent in Nashville, the songs that Urban wrote for that album certainly did. Some Days You Gotta Dance was recorded by The Chicks, while Steel Magnolia recorded Homespun Love, and Walk in the Country was featured on the debut album of American Idol alum Scotty McCreery. The same label that signed the ranch later welcomed Urban aboard their roster as a solo artist. That led to his debut American album, Keith Urban, in 1999, the first building block in the massively successful music career that followed. Nashville may have sparked his music career, but it was also where Keith Urban was first introduced to cocaine. The struggles he faced in the early years of his career didn't help, nor did getting dumped by a woman because the novelty of his Aussie accent had worn off. Urban admitted to Rolling Stone in 2016, "After that, started to really go awry. I stepped up my drinking, I started doing more drugs. The whole back end of the 90s were just awful." That's backed up by his former songwriting partner, Vernon Rust, who claimed that Urban once inhaled more than $300,000 worth of the stuff during one particularly aggressive binge. Urban decided to seek help in 1998 when he checked himself into rehab. He joked in a 2022 interview with The Times, "I just realized I'm allergic to it. Someone said, 'You have an allergy? What happens when you drink?' And I said, 'I break out in cuffs.'" While Urban embraced sobriety from that point forward, he experienced a relapse in 2006. In a statement released that October, he revealed he was entering a rehab facility and had canceled a number of previously scheduled media appearances. He eventually exited the facility after months of treatment in January 2007. In 2001, Keith Urban was one of Nashville's hottest young rising stars when he appeared on the cover of Playgirl. He also appeared nude in some fairly tame photos within the magazine, with a Fender guitar conveniently covering what would make the photo explicit. Years later, Urban was significantly more famous when he appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, where the topic of his Playgirl spread was brought up. Urban admitted that he hadn't done his homework and didn't realize what he was stepping into when he agreed to appear in the magazine. "I had never heard of it, quite seriously. There are certain career regrets that I have, and that falls into that category. That falls into the 'what the hell was I thinking' category. But I'm just glad I play guitar and not harmonica." Keith Urban first met Nicole Kidman in 2005 when they both attended the G'day USA Gala, an event in LA celebrating the achievements of Australians. They were immediately smitten and began dating shortly after. When her birthday rolled around in June, Urban made a grand gesture that wound up sealing the deal. Kidman recounted in an interview with People, "It was my 38th birthday, and he stood outside with gardenias at 5 a.m. on my stoop in New York. That's when I went, 'This is the man I hope I get to marry.'" Kidman's hope became reality the following year, as the two tied the knot in June 2006 at a ceremony in Sydney, Australia.
That makes me happy. That still makes me very happy.
The marriage, by all accounts, has been a long and happy one. In fact, Urban came to view his life in terms of before and after he met the love of his life. Urban gushed in an interview with CBS Sunday Morning, "Meeting her and getting married wasn't life-changing, it was life-beginning. It was literally like, okay, now life starts." After Keith Urban married Nicole Kidman, the couple didn't wait all that long before starting a family. In July 2008, they welcomed their first child together, daughter Sunday Rose. The new parents shared with People magazine, "We feel immensely blessed and grateful to be given this beautiful baby girl. She's an absolute delight." Urban and Kidman expanded their family even further in December 2010 with the arrival of a second daughter, Faith Margaret. While Kidman had given birth to their first daughter, their second was born via surrogate. Once again, they issued a statement to announce the birth, but this time also shared their thanks to the woman who carried their baby for 9 months. They wrote, "No words can adequately convey the incredible gratitude that we feel for everyone who is so supportive throughout this process, in particular, our gestational carrier." Appearing on a 2018 ABC News TV special, Country Music's Biggest Stars, In the Spotlight with Robin Roberts, Urban expounded on the experience of being the father of 2 daughters. "I just love being a parent, so it's been quite the learning curve in a really good way." In 2011, Urban experienced what has become a rite of passage for music stars by becoming a coach on The Voice in Australia, alongside Australian pop star Delta Goodrem, singer Seal, and Good Charlotte frontman Joel Madden. Urban exited after just 1 season, but he wasn't done with TV. Fox announced in 2012 that Urban was joining American Idol as a judge, part of a cast shakeup, in which he, Nicki Minaj, and Mariah Carey joined OG judge Randy Jackson. That particular iteration didn't last due to the intense friction between Carey and Minaj. When the show returned, Urban was the sole judge remaining from the previous season. He was joined by fellow judges Jennifer Lopez and Harry Connick Jr., with the trio sticking around for another season. then returning for the show's 15th and final season. Urban brought his Idol experience full circle when he signed on as a mentor for the 2023 season after the show was revived on ABC. He told Billboard, "I had a great time as a judge and being on the show. Every season was a blast for me. So to come back and get to mentor and perform as well feels fantastic." Urban's experience on The Voice Australia came in handy in 2024 when he was tapped by NBC's American version of the show. This time he wasn't one of the coaches sitting in those swiveling red chairs, but brought aboard as a mega mentor to assist the singers who managed to make it through the show's battle rounds. As Urban explained in an interview with Billboard, he has never found one-size-fits-all advice to be that valuable to the show's contestants, preferring a more individual mentorship that takes each singer's unique talents into consideration. You have to meet each artist where they're at. Sometimes you don't have to change anything at all. You have to keep working and make a better version of what already is. One thing that Urban has learned from doling out all those suggestions to singers, to take a look at himself to make sure he's following his own advice. He told People magazine, "I end up helping myself too, because I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to preach it, make sure you practice it as well." It's a bit of accountability as well.
I don't know if you have this, but you give advice to someone and you're driving home and you're like, I should probably do that myself.
If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.